Hello everyone, welcome back to the Northwestern Central Railroad. Hope you're doing great today. Now, after the immense hardships that I went through, I wouldn't say hardships, lots of trial, error, and elbow grease to put into my latest video. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend. I put so much work into it for someone who doesn't know how to edit a video, even an iMovie. But yeah, today we're gonna do a little bit of a chill day and come up with an idea that I saw from another YouTuber. Forgot the name of it, but basically they did a video on showing small engines in their collection, and that's pretty much what I'm gonna do. And pretty much small engines are engines that usually kind of like the 1688 that I got there, and it's pretty much little engines that are meant to go for 027 layouts or maybe 031 layouts, but don't want the big massive engines that you see these days, like an articulated Allegheny or a Wasatch or a massive Berkshire or Hudson, but something small just to accommodate small tight areas. So today we're going to show those trains excuse me, we're going to show those trains in this video right now. So I'll start with probably my least favorite engine, but also my most favorite engine. It gets both sides of the spot. It is this Lionel MPC 242 Atlantic. Now originally it was actually a 240, but I added an extra added trailing wheels to it just to make it look a little bit cooler. Now this engine, definitely from the MPC era. It's so damn easily to tell because obviously Lionel never made green engines in the post-war era, and this is definitely not something like Kine, RMT, or American Flyer if they made their O-gauge trains, or Marks perhaps. But yeah, this is something really cute, small, tiny, but is absolutely garbage. Why? Because it just doesn't pull well. It's a terrible motor design. Everything besides the frame is sheet metal. There's no die cast on it as far as I can tell. Really cheap connection for pickup rollers, and there's one big fat gear in the middle, which isn't bad, don't get me wrong. It's definitely not trying to go for the realism standard that other engines have, but yeah, it's not bad. I mean, the design could be a little bit better, but yet again, this is a budget-friendly model from the early 70s, and it just has a lot of mechanical problems, mainly because of just how bad the drivetrain is built. But they are simple fixes, and I would say this is worth the $5 that you find at a garage sale or a flea market. I would never say pay over $20 for this. I paid $34 for this total, and this was the Southern Crescent set, I believe this was called, and it was this. And we're gonna get to the next part of this engine, the mechanical sound of steam tender. Now, it's not terrible. I do think the innovation is kind of interesting. It's basically a wheel design with some holes on the sides of the wheel, and it rotates on the bottom. And while it rotates, there's these little beads that they put inside of it. And every time this is mainly a gravity item, so every time when the wheel moves, oh, I can't show it on the table, but every time when the wheel moves, it activates the sound when the beads rotate throughout the armature. And so actually, I do have a piece of track here. And, you know, it's a very, very cheap imitation of the newly tooled mighty sound of steam in the early 70s. Like, I'm talking like early 1971 when that was introduced. This was an easier and more economical, I would say, faction to go for instead of at the time, the really expensive starter sets with the mighty sound of steam, because even though it's not realistic, you still get a good amount of sound to it. Now, all things considered, with the tender shell design, I believe it is a retooling of a post-war tender that was I don't know what the exact name of it is though, but it is the 671W, which actually would have had 6-wheeled trucks as the bottom of the tender, but this one has 4. but because of, cost cutting. And also non-operating couplers, so really garbage. As long as this thing does not have plastic wheels on it, I'd say it's a good buy as well. And we do a little rating system on all these on a scale of 1 to 10. This I would give like a 4. It's not good. It has some problems. It's very touchy. The sound is garbage, but if you find it for a good price, it's not bad. It's a good engine to start with in your collection as mono railroad enthusiasts. Now, let's move on to the next engine. Alright, next engine. We got a different brand this time, actually. This is a Kine product. Mind the damage that I went through because it needs a repair so badly. And it is this little UP Porter steam engine from Kine from the early, I believe, 2010s or 2009. Should say the bottom of the engine. No. Now, this actually was a Kine by Lionel product. And that was a time when Kine was bought by Lionel for, money purposes. But yeah, even though at the time, Kine by Lionel still had a really good standard. They were just as good, or at least maybe a little bit better than regular Kine. They introduced a lot of cool new trains, kept the rolling stock, got rid of the XB70 truck design, which was famous in the MPC era by Lionel. And it is these truck designs I showed earlier on the tender, on literally every single piece of rolling stock. And yeah, every single piece of rolling stock made from 1970 to, whoops, that was the smoke cap, from 1970 to 1986, which was, yeah, pretty bad. And obviously, I'm not going to go into them too much because this is Kine we're talking about. So this is a really cute little engine. I believe it was also, you could have bought it separately or had it in a set with, I believe, 3 or 4 log cars that I believe it was just like a skeleton type car, and then it would just have like a massive plastic log on it, which would look pretty cool because I believe these are actually logging trains, which something I actually never had before. But yeah, this thing, it has seen better days. It is in terrible condition. My childhood was too rough for these things. And yeah, coming in as into an adult or an older person, I much more appreciate model trains as art pieces rather than toys. So yeah, this headlight's supposed to be standing up straight with a little plastic lens on it. This has a 3-position electronic unit, so it's not like the lever type design you see in post-war trains. Really good detail on it, considering this is maybe a no-gauge engine. Got your metal coupler on here. No operating couplers because this is a really small model. This does have smoke, and yeah, all in all, a really nice engine. And if you find this at a good deal, maybe like $50 with the box, if it was in a really good condition, I say go for it. And as sorts of rating, I would give that a solid 7. It's slow, but it definitely does the job for anyone who wants these types of trains. Now, next engine. All right, next engine. What do we got? Now, definitely a lot bigger than the Southern Crescent that I showed earlier. But nonetheless, it is a really high quality engine that is a retooling from the post-war era. And it is this. This is a New York Central Lionel 8516 yard side switcher from 1982, I believe. I may be wrong on the date. But yeah, this was famously shown in my first and only ASMR video that I'll make for this channel. And it was I forgot the exact name of it, but it was the New York Central Yardmaster set, I believe. And it featured this engine. This was, I believe, the 1656 or the 615. No, 1615 actually, from the post-war era. And as you can tell, it is literally on the outside. It is I'm gonna disconnect this tether here. There we go. It is a straightforward carbon copy design of that engine. Now this is not the really high quality one. This is a little bit different, but hey, it's a big step up from that Atlantic. So you got a die-cast shell, die-cast frame, die-cast motor with a can motor. A little bit more scary because I heard the can motors from the 70s and 80s were not reliable and do tend to break often, but mine hasn't had any technical difficulties yet, even when I still use this, so living by a prayer. Hopefully nothing bad happens. Got a operating knuckle coupler in the front with the plunger on it. It is a cheap alternative to the original design from the post-war era, but hey, it does the job really well. This runs really fast, actually, for only having one gear, or the fat gear in the middle. It actually runs faster than that engine, because it's a way better motor design. And they're still using this to this day on... I'm sorry, not to this day, but from the early and late 2010s, before Lion Chief was introduced, it was basically the Atlantic design. Like this motor is the exact same motor that they use in all their Atlantics, starter sets, or just separate sold engines, but it would have a, instead of the 3-position E unit, or like this tether sticking out here for the E unit, that actually would stick the whole E unit in the shell area right behind the cab, so then it would be an electronic rectifier, so you would have an electronic unit instead of the 3-position unit plug stick. So yeah, it's nice. Got a really nice headlight, marker lights. Haven't seen too much damage from the previous owner. It is in really nice condition. I haven't ran it too often, but it is definitely something nice to pull out from time to time. And yeah, coming into the cab, you got really, really nice detail, even though that, sadly, the damn light for this is not good. But yeah, solid engine all around, which is definitely hyping it up, because there's going to be a lot of negatives to this tender. Oh my god, I hate this tender. As you know me before, I'm not really a big fan of these plastic truck designs, because they're not strong at all. They do break very, very easily. And since in the case of these being riveted or stamped inside of the actual shell instead of like a little plastic staple, that would be like on this tender from the APCR. These are definitely a little bit more spooky to run, because they could break at any time. Sadly, this still has the plastic tab holding in the goddamn knuckle, and it just pisses me off, because this engine has so much capability to pull so much. It even pulls better when it's in reverse using the coupler up front, because this coupler is just terrible. It just doesn't work. It can only pull like 5 or 6 cars behind it. Any more is going to be stressing out the coupler, and it will eventually open up and bust open, because it can't hold it. That's why I just love the metal tab. They're so much more powerful. But this thing does a little bit more interesting, right? It does not have any pickup rolls on the bottom. It does have a reverse light on it. And even though this does have a tether on it for the engine, they were still, figuring out the whole E-unit thing on what to do with it. So I'm just going to stick it back in this slot. This fits in very easily. I don't want to pull out too much, because it could actually rip out one of the wires here. And that would not be good, because then my engine would be actually broke and it would not work. But yeah, I'm going to recouple up here to the tender. But yeah, a really good engine, and if you find it for a good price, you can buy it separate sold on the second market, or actually his original product that Lionel did back then. But if it was worth, I would say do the $70 for it. It's a good engine. Now, in the terms of the stars, it's really hard to put an exact number on it, because, well, it's the tender that's weighing it down a lot, and the can motor that is prone to failure. So I would say I'll give it a 7, a little bit better. It's definitely more than half, so it's not terrible, but it's just rough. And anything more than 100 would be a big no-no. But yeah, next train. Alright, next engine, and this is going to be the last of the steam engines, because I do have some honorable mention for diesels, and something like a modern engine that was starting to sell since the post-war era and NPC era, but retooled for the 90s and 2000s and 2010s for an excellent product. And we got the all-iconic Lionel Atlantic model, the 442 design that made so much people happy back then. This is how you do model trains for kids. This is such a good starter engine. And why? Because it's not really too expensive on the secondhand market. These are so dirt cheap compared to what they originally used to be. Like, these depreciate in value by like over 100%. I'll tell you right now, they're so cheap to buy. You just got to find the right model from the right year. But yeah, these are really nice. Similar, or at least following up the design, the idea I talked about the switcher. This engine actually does have the rectifier. And you can see right there with a little bit of the circuit board and capacitor, resistors, and transistors, that is, rectifies the two-position E unit. And it would actually rectify the can motor to actually have 3 positions instead of 2. So yeah, it's a really good, solid alternative. And this is actually a pretty good puller. Obviously, this thing has seen a lot of usage from the previous owner. So the motor is definitely not as strong as what it originally was. You got good some separately applied details. Obviously, in this one it is missing some because it's been played pretty hard by whoever used it, and it was well loved. We'll admit. You got sturdy truck design, even though I'm not the biggest fan of the lead truck, because every time when I usually run this on certain switches, it would always jump the track and derail. So I feel like that could have just been avoided by just making the front truck heavier. And that would probably avoid like 90% of all accidents. Yeah, it's a really good engine. And for kids, it's not a bad price. Now, coming to the tender is where things get interesting. You get an actual air whistle. Oh, and this one's actually missing the pickup roller on it, so unfortunately, can't really pick up any sounds. It still has the plastic tab on it, on the coupler, which pisses me off. But this is a pretty good engine. Now, as you can see the air whistle hole in there, you can actually blow into it, make the whistle activate. So yeah, it's quite nice. And yeah, it is, I believe, a retooling of the post-war squared back tender that was used in the post-war era and in the MPC era. And now I believe Lionel is still making it to this day. May be wrong at that, but if I am, fact check me in the comment section. But yeah, this tender is quite nice. The air whistle on it is powered by a Kine motor, the same as I believe it's the exact same motor for the engine, which is interesting because usually Lionel would cut costs to keep the product low, so then it would make a good profit off of it. But this was from the 90s, so yeah, they were doing really damn good. And yeah, I would say I would give this a good 8 because it's strong, it's powerful, even though it's the tender that's weighing it down because of the coupler. And for about $40, depending on the model that you get, I would say it's worth it. And I was giving it 8 stars. Let's move on to the 2 diesels that we have right now. All right, so now we got that engine out of the way. We are out of official Lionel territory, and we are moving into the only 2 diesels that we have as honorable mentions for our list. Now, this one is definitely old, small, great for running layouts, fits in with the category of these other engines, but in the condition that it's in right now, it needs repairs. And it is this little RMT fake, actually this is a fake engine. It was never existed in real life, but this is what ready-made trains called their beep model. It was supposed to be a really short GP9 design and a GP7 or something, like an SD20 mixing. But yeah, this is really weird. RMT had some really interesting products throughout their entire lifespan existing on the planet. What was really interesting is they literally used the exact same motor design for at least 3 engines I know of. This one, they made a little what they called the beef, the little F3 in this exact same motor design without being any longer. And I believe they did the S2 or the S4 in this design as well. I may be wrong on that last one, but yeah. RMT was really weird and interesting with their trains. They were surprisingly really good, and this was a carryover actually to an older model, an older exact model that was on for the, trying to get a good standing shot for this. It was actually originally introduced by Williams in the early 90s and 80s after purchasing Kusan tooling, after their business was actually doing really good instead of selling train parts for standard gauge engines. So when they started making sets and sit cats, just forget what I meant. It said set kits. This was one of their interesting models when Williams was eventually bought out by Bachmann. RMT took the design, upgraded it. Instead of 1 rubber band drive motor, this is 2 can motors without a flywheel, sadly. 3-position E-unit as electronically. 4 traction tires originally, but this one has seen far better days. And yeah, even though it was really small, it was really reliable. Even had an illuminated cab. So yeah, this one would have been, I would probably say around the early 2000s, but the price of this steadily increased due to the economic troubles at the time, which was the mid to late 2000s. And then originally these actually were sold for $50 by RMT in that time period. But as you know, the prices for the economy skyrocketed to an all-time low. The product was immediately jumped up to 50, 60, well over $100 then, which turned off cheap budget railroaders, and then the product was discontinued right after the last price increase. But yeah, this was a really good model, even though it is definitely damaged and missing one coupler design, and the motors inside are actually broke. It's still pretty good. I would definitely give this a full-blown 10. It is a damn good engine on the Star Spectrum. It is a good puller if you have all the traction tires on it. And if you have both couplers or the beef model, I would say it's a good price. Now, these are going a little bit more expensive than usual. Instead of the $50, they are like $60 or $70. But if you find them for a good price on the internet or at a train show, under $60, I'd say go for it. It's a really good engine. Amazing. Now let's move on to the last engine on this list right now. All right, last engine now. I did say we were out of Lionel territory, but this is like a jointly Lionel production, even though it was definitely from another brand. You heard that right. If you know what I'm talking about, we're back at K-Line with another Lionel post-war retooling, and it's this little box cab electric from, I believe, should say here. No, never mind. I thought it was actually 2007. Yes, I remember. This was from 2007. Really cheap model, but a garbage design. So a little bit of backstory for this one. This one's a little bit interesting. This was, got some dust actually. This was a original post-war piece that Lionel made in the mid to late 50s as a budget new tooled railroad item, new engine that would sure to love the wallet on every father to buy this for their kid for Christmas. But it was so cheap, in fact, that it was absolutely functionally broke. Why? because this was a 240 design. There was only one lead truck on the model in that original design. And what happened was that it was built really poorly. It was super light. It would always jump the tracks and derail. Not even on switches, on like legitimate straight tracks, which was really bad because no one wanted that to happen. So usually a lot of people either took the part off or just ran the thing in reverse. That's what I would usually do. But yeah, it was really interesting that K-Line reissued this under the Lionel name because really, realistically, is the exact same performance that post-war design gave. It was really bad. I wouldn't say it's really bad. It's just not built well. For me, it's too light. When this thing is going at 17 volts or like 3 amps of power, when this thing's going full blast, if you immediately hit the directional unit, it like jumps the track. And if you're running it in forward with this lead truck first, it will easily jump it. It doesn't matter if you're Jesus or not. There's no way you can prevent it. It will jump the track and derail. That's why it's not really the 100% best design, but it's actually a mediocre puller. Yeah, that's probably all I gotta say for it. It's not really the best engine here. I would give it like a solid 6. I mean, it's okay. And if you want that post-war design, go for it. It's like $40 online. I find some for 30 if it's in really bad condition. But the K-Line model, definitely don't pay for the $80 for it now. I've seen it go for 80, which is sad. Even though this does have a horn, it's not worth it. It really isn't. But yeah, that is all the trains that we have, at least I have shown throughout this video. We got our Atlantic from the 90s, MPC Switcher reissue, Southern Crescent from the MPC era, K-Line box cab, RMT Beep, a Kine Porter. And yeah, let's go run these engines individually on the layout. Alright, so we're at the layout now with this comically funny run session here. We got on the outer loop, we got our Atlantic, our yard side switcher, and our box cab pulling a imaginary transformer card, which is really heavy, taking a dummy unit, Alco Legacy FA unit. And then we got the inner loop, our beep with 2 pieces of rolling stock, and then our little Porter with 3 pieces, although technically they are lighter. And yeah, this is going to be a little bit interesting and not really any explanation about this, so let's just get started. And we're about to have a derailment. Oh, we're about to have a derailment here. It's just running the inner train again. Alright, now we have the other engines run. Let's run the lonely Crescent here. Crescent Atlantic. Let's go. Alright, that's going to end it for this video on running all of my little engines. Hope y'all enjoyed. It's kind of a little bit of a filler episode, a little bit of a breather after the hectic video. We're gonna... Anything to say over there, little Porter? Anything? Okay, well, I guess that was something. Alright, so that'll be it for this video. Actually, we're going to do a part 2 to this. Instead of the little engines, we're going to do the top-of-the-line big engine, the big conventional engines. Now, this is all just conventional only. I should have mentioned that at the beginning of the video. But yeah, we're going to do some big engines, so hopefully y'all are excited for that video coming up. And yeah, this is going to be the Northwestern Central Railroad signing off. But before I go, I think y'all need to see what's going to happen. It didn't even short the circuit over there. Alright, so yeah, that's going to be the Northwestern Central Railroad signing off. Have a very, very nice day.